Welcome back, guys. Today we have a 99 Suburban 5.7. We'll be replacing the radiator. First place I like to start is removing the upper shroud. Got 1, 6 retaining bolts, 10 millimeter. You got this upper battery cable. It's running across. We're going to need a screwdriver to pop that. Just a little retaining clip. Let's get behind it like so. Pop it off. Put it back out of your way. Long extension. Don't need to be quite that long. I want to really open it up to see exactly where it's coming from. I have a pretty good idea. One more retaining clip. I'll give you a shot where it's leaking. Right in that bottom corner. Next, we're going to go underneath and drain the antifreeze. A point of reference, here's the left front tire. You come in on this side of the frame and you'll see that little hole right there. Right above it is the pepcock. You can almost see the tab of it sticking out. We're going to take and loosen that up. Most times it doesn't drain clearly through that hole. It'll run down that channel and go a few different directions. So you're going to want a decent sized catch pan. Right now it's gurgling a lot. That's because it has the radiator cap still on it. Now you'll notice once I open the radiator cap, it's going to come out much faster. So you want to, I got 2 drain pans set up. Because it goes every direction but the way you want it to go. Okay, while the radiator's draining, I'm going to take and remove this overflow tube. Just tuck that up out of our way. Okay, I think it's safe that we could take and remove the upper radiator hose from the radiator. It's got one of these clamp style squeeze clamps. So we're going to take and pull that in just like so. Pull it back on the hose. Give the hose a little twist. And we're going to put this up out of our way. Next we're going to break this top transmission cooling line loose. I'm using a 19 millimeter on the back side. Yours may not have it. This looks like it's been replaced once before. Maybe a 3/4. But a 5/8 line wrench on the cooling line itself. Make sure you use a line wrench, guys, because you don't want to round these off. Okay. Now I'm going to take and break that lower one loose. You could remove this lower shroud if you want. However, you could do it without it. Otherwise, you got to remove a dust cover underneath. You'll see you got the splash guard. You've got one retaining bolt here, one there, one right up here. And then it has 2 retaining bolts on this cover. And they're a little bit of a pain to get to, and a lot of times they're rusted. Once I get the bottom line broke loose with the line wrench, I get an open end 5/8 wrench just to make it a little easier with the shroud in the way. Now that the radiator is pretty much drained down, before I remove these cooling lines, I'm going to take and remove the lower hose. Now you can see it has a regular style hose clamp, regular screwdriver. Most times those style hose clamps are a 5/16, so I got a 5/16 socket with a long extension back to back, because it's just much easier than trying to get down there with a screwdriver. Now that I have the clamp loose, I'm going to take and remove the radiator hose. I got my drain pan moved over to this side of the vehicle just in case, because you are going to get a little bit of residual from the lower hose. And then once the lower hose is removed, I just lost the clamp off. I just tuck it up and out and grab that clamp before it falls in my bucket. Now I'm going to finish removing the coolant lines from the radiator. I'm going to start with the lower one, because if I remove this upper one first, I'm going to have oil dripping on me. So, okay, got the lower line screwed all the way out. I'm going to do the same with the upper line. Not bad. Okay, next we're going to take and remove the oil coolant lines on the driver's side. This lower one, you take and move this shroud over just a little bit. You still have an oil pan on this side as well. Take and removing the bottom one all together. Remove the top one. Okay. Next we're going to take and remove the retaining brackets. There's only 2 more 10 millimeters remaining. Okay, so now we should be ready to remove it. Just going to clear the lines. Got a little more antifreeze coming out of the drain pepcot. I'm actually going to put that back in and tighten it up. I'm just going to finish draining from the lower hose into a drain bucket. Prior to installing the new radiator, if there's any debris down in this lower radiator support, now would be a good time to clean it out. Okay, I'm just going to wipe up whatever antifreeze I can at this point. As I learned over time, guys, if you have a little bit of antifreeze remaining in these channels, the customer will think they still have a leak. You're not going to get all of it, but you want to make sure these lower grommets are in good shape. That's where your radiator is going to sit into, these grommets right here. Make sure nothing fell down the side of them. Okay, we're good. Alright, I got the new radiator. I'm just going to inspect it. Want to make sure it has both coolant lines. It comes with adapters just in case, which it looks like I may have to use, but we'll take a walk over to the vehicle. It appears that these ones are the bigger fittings, so we'll be able to screw them right into that radiator. Make sure this pepcock's tight. So these ones come with these brass adapters as well, and we know we need them. Take and remove these plugs at this point because it's going to be real hard to get them out once it's in the vehicle. Tighten them up now before we put them in the vehicle. You don't have to kill them. I'm also going to check this clamp. That's going to stay on there, so we're pretty good. We can take and remove the caps. Okay, now we're going to take and install the radiator. You want to make sure you can push these lines out of the way because you don't want to damage the radiator while you're installing it. So you want to be gentle. And you want to set it down into those grommets. You're just going to want to finesse the lines out of the way. I'm going to start this lower line right away. Make sure you're going to start it straight. Start the upper line. You can start this upper line. Lower line. Just for ease of access and whatnot, I'm going to use an open end 5/8 to tighten the line. Now it's important to use a line wrench when you're loosening a line. When you're installing a line, it's okay. As long as your fitting's in good shape, you can use an open end. Makes it a lot easier, guys. Okay, so now I got the bottom line ran down snug. Now if you go to tighten it, you're going to twist the line up. So what you want to do is put the line in position and hold it from spinning. Okay, let's tighten it. I'm going to tighten this top one right away as well. Hold it where you want it. Tighten it in. Now remember, these are flared fittings and we're going into a new seat. So sometimes they may leak a little bit on an initial startup. However, I tighten them down, just wait a little bit. And I just go in and give them another tug. I'm usually pretty good because that fitting, that flare, just like when you're doing brake lines, is forming its new shape. Okay, at this point I'm going to install the lower hose. I'm going to put the clamp on in the same orientation, that way I can get to it with the extension. Same way we took it off. Try to get the clamp in the same spot as it was originally. You're not replacing the hoses. Now remember, you got a ratchet on this thing, so you don't want to go tight. It's a plastic radiator. Just take that down snug. I got a better feel for hose clamps using a screwdriver, so it's more than tight enough. Okay, here's a shot after the two coolant lines are hooked up, along with the lower radiator hose. Okay, now I'm going to take and tighten up the coolant lines on the driver's side. Remember, hold the line where you want it. That should be good. Going to do the same thing on this side. Hold the line. Okay, now we're going to take and install the upper radiator hose. Upper hose, both coolant lines tight, and the petcock is tight. Make sure the radiator's sitting in its lower grommets. Like so. Now we're going to take and install the upper supports. Little trick to start this one. Now we're going to install the upper shaft. All the retaining bolts started. Install these two. $10 millimeter. Now we're going to take and put the battery cable back in its loom. We got a retaining clip here. You pretty much see where it was originally. We put it back in the same spot. Flip your clips. You're going to take and remove this cap that they showed in there. Put our overflow hose on. Snug it down. I like bending these around because I'm usually the one working on them and I stab myself with them, so I take and I fold that clamp around. Okay, now we're going to top it off with antifreeze. We're using the regular green traditional Prestone antifreeze. This vehicle was flushed of the Dex Cool a few years back when we did the lower intake manifold on this. It's going to gurgle down on you. There's no bleeders on this system. These ones are pretty forgiving as far as air because the radiator is slightly higher than the engine. You can get a special funnel made just for doing this. Have mine cracked. I'll essentially keep filling it until all the gurgling goes away and it's topped off. It is pretty much filling the block. Everything that drained out. This one's got to be in and out. The customer's on his way shortly. So I'll have just enough time to take it for a test drive. I'm just going to peek underneath to make sure I don't have anything pouring out. It's looking good. Sometimes you give that lower hose a squeeze. Kind of help the process along. Same thing with the upper hose. Be careful not to squeeze it too much. You can see the fluid staying up top. I'm going to give it a little squeeze. You can still see some bubbles coming out when I squeeze that upper hose. I just got a good air pocket out once again. It's a slow, tedious process, but I think we're pretty much there. Right now it's going up and going down that overflow slightly. Now I'm just taking them, squeezing it along this upper hose. And he wants the fluid corresponding with it every time I squeeze it. Okay, now we're going to check the level of the overflow. I didn't really want to pop it all the way off like that, but she's pretty much empty, so we're gonna have to top that off. This lower retaining piece was supposed to stay on there. We're gonna install the radiator cap for a moment. Make sure everything's clear, and I'm gonna start it up. Careful when you're opening the side of your cat. You can see it pull down a little bit. Now we're going to go underneath while it's running. Just make sure we don't have any leaks. Alright, looks good. And just wipe this frame off. Splash it. Everything looks good underneath here. We want to look over the training coolant lines, any oil coolant lines. Make sure you have no leaks. Now remember, since the training cooler was empty, I want to take some separate training fluid. From the cold mark. That brought us right up to the cold mark. I'm just going to take and put it in drive, run it through the gears. It was a little bit low. Up the operating temperature down. You can see we just made it to the warm. The bottom one is reaching the hot, and then we can go all the way up to the top. So I'm going to leave it right there. It's cold, hot, and it will stay right in that range. So I'm going to take it for a quick ride. It's probably going to be a little bit low in oil as well. It's not going to be super low because it only holds a little amount in that radiator. Before I started, I checked the oil and we were pretty good. I don't see any issues. Don't expect any issues. So until next time, stay tuned.